about your background and how you came to go to law school and how you came to be an intern at the North Dakota Legislature.
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Hillsboro, North Dakota, and after graduating from NDSU in natural resources management, I, like many people, had a little difficulty finding a job that suited my interests, and I decided to go to law school. So
And what year are you in law school?
I'm a second-year law student.
And what do you hope to do with your law degree?
Oh, well, I would hope to end up maybe in the corporate or business sector or a firm. Really.
Now you're a member of an intern for the Senate Natural Resources Committee. Does your academic background suit that?
Yes, absolutely. That was we got to rank the committees that we were hoping to work for, and that was my number one choice. So I was pretty happy to be given that opportunity.
Mr. Graff, tell us about yourself. Where are you from originally?
Well, I graduated from high school in Dassel, Minnesota. It's a small town about an hour west of the Twin Cities. But I did my undergraduate degree at University of North Dakota, and I'm also now doing law school at the University of North Dakota. I'm my third-year law student, and actually I graduate in about 5 days, so I get to put on a silly outfit and get to walk up in front of everyone. But yeah, I've loved my time here, and it's been a really good experience.
Congratulations to you. Mr.
you.
Mr. Askew, where are you from originally?
I'm from Devils Lake, North Dakota. I did my undergrad at St. Cloud State, got a business management degree. Then I came back to UND, finished up an English major I had started, and decided that I wanted to go to law school. All three of us applied through the law school for this internship program, and it's been a good experience so far.
Yeah, I want all three of you to tell me how you came to have this job and why you thought it was attractive. I'd like to start with you, Ms. Lambert.
Okay. Well, the opportunity was kind of mentioned long before the application process was open to us, and it had very good reviews from other students that had done it, that had completed the internship in the past. And it's also it's interesting to get a look at the other branches of government, work with the legislative branch, because so much in law school we spend so much time with the judiciary branch.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Graff, how did you become aware of this opportunity?
Well, when they posted the law school, they posted a flyer talking about the internship, and not really knowing much about it at the time. I attended the session, and the former interns that were there, and they spoke to it and how much they loved their experience. And for me, it's now my last semester of law school, and I feel it should kind of go out with a bang. And that's how I got hooked. I applied, and they must have liked me because I'm out here now. So,
And Mr. Askew, how did you become aware of it?
Well, I've kind of always been interested in politics, and I thought this was a good opportunity to get out of the classroom. Same thing, we heard about it through the law school postings. We had a session where we heard some feedback from former interns. And I'm kind of like Kirby. I was right in the middle of law school. I was a second-year law school student, so this is about halfway. We'll be done after next year. So it was a good opportunity to get out of the classroom and learn a little bit about the legislative process.
And tell us what you've learned about the legislative process and politics and human relationships in general. I'd like to start with you, Ms. Lambert.
Oh dear. Well, I didn't know what to expect going in, so all of it has been a learning experience.
And what when you're watching a committee hearing going on, what is it that you're doing? What are you concentrating on?
Well, generally I would take notes on what was happening in the committee, and I guess amendments were the number one task, but
I wanted to get to that. What sort of work do you do for the committee? Just tell us a little bit about the job that you do and the work that you do.
well, besides drafting amendments, there's legal research, or sometimes if they need the century code pulled, that's easy to do.
Can you explain what you meant by that? The century code polls?
I guess we can access it online,
Okay.
which is sometimes easier than digging out the book. And,
do any of you have much use for the book, the hard copy, or do you rely on online?
It's pretty quick and easy online, just to pull it up even through the website.
For this internship, it's much easier to do it online, but working at a firm, I worked at a firm in Grand Forks before this. A lot of times in the book they have little snapshots of different cases, different things that the judiciary branch has already done, and so it's nice to you can find a little snapshot related to those sections of law. So it's helpful, but it's more helpful in this case just to use the internet.
Mr. Graff, I asked this question of Ms. Lambert. What do you intend to do with your law degree?
Well, that's a good question right now. I'm currently don't have anything lined up for after graduation. Traditionally, after graduation, law students study for the bar exam, which this year is July 30th and 31st. So starting graduation this weekend, the bar review starts May 27th, and from May 27th into July, I will be spending a majority of my time, 40 hours a week or more, just studying for the bar exam. And after that, I'd really like to, ultimately someday maybe some sort of appellate advocacy. If that means arguing for the North Dakota Supreme Court, or if that argues in front of the 8th Circuit, either way, I think that's what I'd like to do.
Mr. Askew, what would you like to do with your legal training?
Well, I'm hoping to get through law school with as much hair as I can keep, not pulling it out over final exams. But I'd really like to get in with a firm, start as an associate. There's so many different aspects of law that you think that you'd like, not sure if you'd like until you really experience them. So I'd like to find a firm that lets me start out and kind of find my niche and take it from there.
One of the things that the Chief Justice mentioned in his State of the Judiciary speech was a program, and I'm not really sure how this has evolved as the legislative session has gone on, but essentially it's a program or an initiative to encourage law students, such as yourselves, to go into rural communities and work there and see if that's to your taste. Ms. Lambert, have you considered something like that?
Well, that's absolutely something I would consider. I'm from North Dakota, and I do plan to stay in the state, so working in a rural area is kind of just might be part of the deal.
Okay. So. What about you, Mr. Graff?
I would definitely. I mean, I'm planning to take the North Dakota bar exam, as I previously said, and a couple of my classmates I've spoken to about starting up our own firm if we don't actually have employment with another firm, and would all the opportunities would be small town North Dakota. It's it's a good opportunity. There's work to be done, and I know there are even some attorneys in the eastern part of the state who are contracting work out from all the oil-related law firms out in the western part of the state. So there's work to be done.
Yeah, I was going to ask all of you, actually, what are the business prospects in North Dakota for a young lawyer?
Well, I think it's kind of limitless right now. There's such a draw to the oil field or oil-related law that kind of frees up a lot of work for family law or business transactions. There's a lot of works with wills that aren't getting done. So really even the small town jobs, I mean, a person can do a wide variety of different things from that little office in a little town.
Mr. Graff, what sort of opportunities do you see in North Dakota from the legal business side?
I definitely see that with the growing sector, especially in the western part of the state, as my classmate here, Andy, said, there's always work to be done, and even the work I was doing in Grand Forks, at times I was reading title opinions, drafting wills, doing probate documents for, the survivors of someone who had passed away, and in North Dakota right now, the legal community is growing. I believe they had 60-some applicants, and people take the bar exam in February, which is the most they've ever had for a February bar exam. So there are a lot of people coming to the state to work in the legal field, and there are opportunities. There are.
Does this internship, do you get paid? Do you get class credit? How does it work?
Well, I guess the easiest way is, I explained it to my wife this way, is we don't get paid. It's we have 12 credits for the class that we're taking, but we get a living stipend to be out here. Okay. So we're not technically paid employees, but we get a living stipend to cover our costs of housing and whatnot.
And plus you get class credit, which is worth something.
That's correct, yes.
And what have you learned, all of you, that you think you'll be able to use to make you a better attorney?
Well, each week or every Monday we'd have a different speaker come in, and for about 2.5 hours they'd talk about a selected topic. We heard from some of the lobbyists, from some of the state agency attorneys, heard from a couple judges. So we did get a wide variety of speakers and learned things that you never really hear in the classroom. Learned a lot about the legislative process, how to track legislation, just kind of how everything works inside the Capitol from the inside out. So definitely stuff that's hard to learn in the classroom, and kind of the stuff you have to see to really pick up on.
And it's kind of just the general personal, like communication skills, professionalism, getting along with people, communicating effectively, things like that.
Mr. Askew, you mentioned the things that you never heard in the classroom. What are you talking about?
Well, we always kind of learned about just how the legislative session works, and you hear about conference committees, you hear about bills passing each chamber, but until you really see how that works, like Aneen said, how people get along, how politics come into maybe not a simple process, but definitely slows the process down. Sometimes it speeds the process up. I learned a lot in the committee rooms. You learn different things about the legislation that you don't hear about in the news. It's harder to maybe read about, but when you're there listening to the testimony, listening to the conversations from the senators or representatives, you do pick up on a lot.
Mr. Graff, I want all three of you, if you don't mind, to address this, but are your classmates interested in what you're doing?
I would say that they are. It's a little weird being out here because we don't see a majority of our classmates. I mean, as 1Ls, there are 80 of us in a room, and we have the same class with every single person. So we get to know each other as sort of a small or a large family. And now that you're out here and you're texting and you're talking to them, and they're interested. And I was home last weekend, actually moving some of my stuff back because my last day is tomorrow. And I had brunch with two of my classmates, and they were asking me about a handful of the bills and things that are happening out here and how are things going, and they're definitely interested, definitely.
Does anyone ever come up to you and say, what is it gang of idiots doing out there, or something, similar to that? I mean, people who maybe people who, frankly, are reading about the legislature in the newspaper. Maybe they think that the legislature's doing a great job. Maybe they think they're doing, destroying the republic as we know it. I don't. I want to know how you deal with folks who know what you're doing. They know you're working in the legislature, and they want to know what you think about things. Because I imagine it's kind of a touchy subject.
And a lot of times people are, like Kirby said, they're asking about a handful of bills that interest them. I don't know if a lot of people will always approach me, at least, about the general perception of what the legislature's doing, but the hot button issues are definitely asked about. I know I was asked a lot about the animal cruelty bill and how that went, or definitely the abortion stuff. Everybody's kind of asking at least me about that, or my opinion here and there. But
what about you, Ms. Lambert?
Well, one thing that I think has really been interesting is that everyone's going to have their own opinions on some of these bigger issues, but when you're sitting in the room listening to people's testimony, there's pretty compelling arguments on both sides for all of these issues.
Has this process given you more respect for the legislative process or state government in general?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's cool to see how an idea becomes a bill, how a bill becomes law, and it's not as easy as it sounds. So it is really nice to see the entire process lay out, all the different moving factors that go into it, and it's really interesting to see how legislation can become legislation, or how it ends up being killed. So
I would say the same thing. Being law students, we always deal with laws as they're interpreted, and it's a good change of face to see how laws are made, and you don't really see that in law school. Yes, I took a legislation class. I think we all did, so we could be out here. But other than that, you're always seeing things on the other side of the written law. So.
How does the legislation class measure up to how things are actually done?
Well, for that class in particular, I guess I can answer for the three of us. We had to kind of draft model. We had to draft model law and kind of do a paper about it, and also we had a lot of drafting exercises relating to the book that we had laws that were from across the country that were poorly written, and it was our job to kind of fix them. And now we're not saying that the laws we work with now are poorly written, but sometimes when we're drafting amendments that the committee gives to us, and that sometimes they're rather vague or not very specific, we have to interpret based on the hearings, based on what they've given us. And that practice of drafting legislation in legislation classes, I thought was invaluable.
Ms. Lambert, in your job, and the job of all of you, you meet and talk to legislators, you meet and talk to lobbyists, you see people come in to testify on bills, you speak to people who work for state agencies, and all the great polyglot of folks that come and descend on the legislature when it's in session. What do you learn from these people?
Well, there's all different kinds of people that come in, and everyone they come in with their own ideas and things that they have to offer. It's just really important to listen and pick up their point. And
has it helped all of you? And I'm not saying that you weren't open-minded to begin with, but has it helped you to become more respecting of different points of view?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, your first instinct is you want to make a decision as soon as you hear of an idea, and then, like Aneen said, after you hear each side, you're maybe not as quick to make up your mind quite, and you want to hear a little bit more of the facts or different people's opinions and be a little more reserved in your judgment.
And we're nonpartisan employees, and so we're not allowed to give our opinion on bills or give our opinion on if legislature asks us, well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? We're not allowed to give that beyond, well, you know, here are a couple options that we can draft for you. I mean, there's nothing that we can actually give our opinion, and it's like Andy said and Aneen had said previously that it's nice you see both sides of the issue and you can't be a knee-jerk reaction to one side because really we have to be in the corner and do what we're told.
Has any of this whetted any of your appetites for being a legislator, for being a lobbyist, for working for a state agency, or doing any of the jobs that you have seen being done in the legislature?
I think so. I've always had kind of a knack for politics. I really enjoy reading about it, staying up to date, and seeing the role of lobbyists in the legislature, bringing everybody's information and facts to the legislators so that they can make the most informed decision was probably one of the more impressive aspects. I was probably most taken back by that aspect, by how much lobbyists are needed in our legislature with the part-time legislators to make sure that everybody's informed on all the issues. So, yeah, definitely, I would really like to pursue something like that.
I think if the opportunity arose, and I think I definitely do it, lobbyist or legislator, we've gleaned a lot just on relationships, and they always joke about the small bar association in North Dakota. There's a small number of lawyers that if you makes one person particularly angry, everyone's going to know about it. And in North Dakota, I'd like to think that a little more small town nice is something that carries the day, and that the relationships are very, very important.
What do you think about, Ms. Lambert? What do you think about? Do you think that this has made you kind of broaden your horizons in terms of your ability to analyze the opinions of others and kind of see the validity to them? Or
yes, I think so. It's like I said before, it takes all kinds of people, and
I wanted to know, I mean, you all are obviously intimately acquainted with the University of North Dakota Law School. There's a proposal to spend $12 million to renovate it. Tell me what you think about that project or the need for it.
Well, I think Justice Vanderwall alluded to it in his State of the Judiciary that there's an incredible need for attorneys in the state. And I think one of the great ways to make sure that we're having attorneys in the state is having a state law school. I wanted to practice in North Dakota. That's why I came to UND. So I think that's one of the real important, maybe even easy things for the state legislature to do to make sure that we are keeping North Dakota residents in the profession and in the state.
I think the biggest concern is the accreditation, and it's obviously the policymaker's decision, but the accreditation is the most important thing to law school right now.
Ms. Lambert, why did you come to UND?
well, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, and I did apply elsewhere, but to be close to family, and also it's a great quality education, and it's affordable as well.
Did you, was part of it you intended to practice in North Dakota and you figured you should go to law school here too?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. What about you two gentlemen? Why did you attend UND?
Well, I did my undergraduate degree at University of North Dakota, and it just felt like home. I did not even apply to another law school. Once I made that decision when I was after my sophomore year of undergrad, I decided I wanted to go to law school, and UND was the place for me. It's home. I've lived in Grand Forks for longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life, so it's home. And
I'm kind of the same way. With the fact that you have to take a state-specific bar, you kind of want to plan ahead. I think everybody had the initial response to want to apply to different places and see what's available. But North Dakota was great for me. I know I wanted to practice here. Like Aneen said, it's a real affordable school. It's a great education. And as Kirby mentioned earlier, it's a really small legal community. And you start to build all those connections in law school. I've met so many different professors and lawyers in practice that hopefully I'll be able to maintain relationships with after law school as well.
I want all three of you to respond to this as well. Ms. Lambert, someone comes up to you and says, I'm thinking about doing an internship as you're doing. How would you describe the experience to that person as a way of selling them on the idea of being an intern or not?
Well, I would certainly try to sell them on the idea. You get thrown into the mix right away, and it's not really an option to sink. You learn a lot. You meet people that you wouldn't meet otherwise, and that opens doors, opens opportunities, and it just gives you a greater, kind of more rounded knowledge of the law.
Mr. Askew, sir.
Yeah, I'd kind of take it right from there, too, and say it's a great experience to get out into the middle of the legislative session. You learn everything from the ground up. I know throughout my profession, I'll always kind of look back and track legislation that interests me, and I'll have a good idea of where to look and what I'm looking at. So that's probably what I would sell the most, is the experience and the takeaway knowledge that you get from it.
I would definitely sell this to anyone, and I already have. The couple 1Ls, the first-year law students that I do know, I've recommended this. You have to apply for this when you get the opportunity. It's the best. I don't know.
We've been speaking to 3 University of North Dakota legal interns who have been working in the North Dakota legislature, which is coming to an end this week, and the jobs of these 3 young people are coming to an end as well. They work until the end of the month, and that's it, and the end of the month is nigh. We've been speaking to Aneen Lambert. She's the intern for the Senate Natural Resources and Judiciary Committees. Kirby Graff, he was the intern for the House Education and Energy and Natural Resources Committees. And Mr. Andy Askew, who is working for the Senate Industry, Business and Labor, and Agriculture Committees. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank
you for having us.
And good luck to you in your future endeavors. This is Dale Wetzel. This is Legislature Today.